About 120 feet. Running game every week. About 100 what they keep. Fantasies, Egyptian cheats. If there was only a way to test this, check this. Listen to the 40 for your next shit. Flexes, FF is what they obsess with. Checklist complete, I guess you can't best us.
Welcome back. We are back for another episode of the Fantasy 40 podcast. You didn't even know it snuck up on you, but we are in the double-digit weeks of NFL football already, previewing Week 10. We're going to try something a little different this week. We're going to split it up with the Thursday night game and the Sunday early games for an episode, and then the late games and Monday night football. So bear with us as we test this out. You're listening to the early games and Thursday, and then if you're interested in the late games and Monday, look for another episode. So we'll see how this works out. But other than that, Walk, how you doing, and what do you think of Week 10?
I'm doing, man. And yeah, let's we got to get these episodes a little skinnier. You know, we're pushing like an hour and a half on our episodes anymore, which wasn't the impetus behind the name of the show. So we're going to try and get this down into the 40-minute range again, even if it means breaking the season in half. But I mean, you said Week 10. We have 1 month of the fantasy regular season left.
Yep.
Turn
into the fantasy 90 real quick.
Yeah. So it's go time, you know, but there was some interesting football, to say the least, not at the end of the week last week. The Sunday night and Monday night football games were laughable for totally different reasons. But the NFL landed with a thud in Week 9, and spoiler alert, it might do the same again in good old Week 10. So we'll save that for episode 2 today. But, yeah, we're going to start Thursday night football, and then we'll dive into those 1 o'clock games. But as we always do, just a reminder, teams on the bye: Atlanta Falcons, Dallas Cowboys, Kansas City Chiefs, and the New York Fighting Jets. So there is some fantasy goodness missing from our plate in Week 10, specifically on that Kansas City and Atlanta side of the house. So adjust accordingly.
Yes, and you know, we've brought this up in the past. It's not a big week for fantasy points anyway, at least looking at projected totals. Only one team over 30 points this week. So, and how many teams we got under 24? If you include 25 teams. So might be a little slim this week with some weird people scoring, but is what it is. And let's jump into these Thursday and early games.
All right, your absolute favorite Thursday night football is coming out of the gate with an AFC South bang when the Phillip Rivers back tackling Indianapolis Colts head to Nissan Stadium to do battle with division rival Tennessee Titans. What we got in this game?
The odds makers are expecting some points, total of 49 in some places here at Vegas. Tennessee's a 2-point favorite in most spots, so they're expecting a shootout. I tend to think these Thursday games go a little skinnier than they are projected, but Tennessee's looking at 25 points, the Colts 23. You know, what we see from the Colts last week? Taylor fumbled, I believe, and then was relegated to the bench, so we're dealing with that like we've seen several other teams deal with throughout the year. But other than that, it's a little – I fade these games all the time. Obviously, you know, the key names here are Derrick Henry, and whatever happens, you know, Indy's got a ambulance filling crew at wide receiver. Rivers hasn't been that good. Can't trust Taylor now with the way they're using him. Wilkins comes and goes as kind of the favorite guy. Hines has been fantasy relevant throughout the year too, to a lesser extent. I mean, you're not going to start him over a good running back, but he's been decent enough to plug and play if you needed him with injuries and bye weeks. Was expecting a nice Corey Davis game last week, which I didn't get, but no, thank you on Thursdays. You know how I feel about this.
Well, what exactly did Corey Davis do in Week 9?
I don't have it in front of me, but I know it wasn't good.
No. Twas not, because Corey Davis had nothing.
Yeah, I think 3 targets.
0. Just when Corey Davis earns back the love and respect and admiration of the fantasy community, he Corey Davises you and lays an absolute goose egg in what should have been a pretty decent spot for him against the Bears. I mean, Tannehill didn't throw it a ton. Only threw it 21 times, but none of those, only 3 of those 21 went to Corey Davis, and Tannehill was 10 of 21, so there was not a lot of catches to be had for anyone. Thank God A.J. Brown had a 40-yard touchdown catch in that game. And Jonnu caught both of his targets because it would have just been an utter disaster in Tennessee. But, yeah, as far as this game is concerned, like, stingy defenses on Thursday Night Football, short week, so probably compress game plans, run heavy. But the Colts' run defense, which I was skeptical of, looking at who they played early in the season, I'm like, let's reserve judgment. Well, they just held Baltimore to 2.9 yards per carry. Did give up 2 rushing touchdowns to them, but they held Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, and Gus Edwards in check. And no one holds those guys in check in the running game. I mean, they ran all over Pittsburgh the week prior, and Indy just bowed up and shut that run game down. They just had no offense to beat the Ravens. But I'd probably temper expectations on Derrick Henry a little bit because you sell out to stop Derrick Henry, right? You make them throw the ball. And it seems like they have the defense that they can minimize the Derrick Henry train. At the same time, the Colts pass defense has only given up 10 passing TDs on the year. So I don't know where the points are going to come from. On the Tennessee side of the house, you have to start A.J. Brown. You definitely aren't starting Corey Davis. You have to start Derrick Henry, but I'd say temper expectations on him. And you're probably starting Tannehill if you have him because he's just been consistent up until this point. But I do think there are some streamers out there that you should consider over him. On the Indy side, you're absolutely right. Jonathan Taylor came out of the gate pretty hot, scored a touchdown early on. Even on his fumble, it was a decent catch. He just got stripped, as he was going down on the sideline, which led to the aforementioned Phillip Rivers fumbling, falling his ass, reaching up like he was falling down a cliff for the last branch to try and tackle Chuck Clark. And then after that, you barely saw any Jonathan Taylor. So who knows? And on a short week, I'm not going to the well with anyone on the Indianapolis side. There's no one that I'd say is probably even like a must flex option on the Colts. So
we're not wrong.
Not going to lie to you. It is an ugly game. You're right. You nailed this one. Your Thursday night hatred continues. But as far as the Colts pass defense is concerned, I actually right. They haven't faced some murderer's row of quarterbacks. And 2 weeks ago, Stafford got him for 336, 3-1. So maybe Tannehill can get off, throwing the ball because I think they will be mitigated in the running game. And then before we get out of this game, I'm just praying to the Arthur Smith gods and asking, can Jonnu Smith please see more than 2 targets in a fucking game? Is that possible, Art?
It's just not a pass-heavy offense, and we knew that coming into it. And early in the year, John was able to do something even with his limited targets. But yeah, it seems like as the year has gone on, it hasn't broken his way.
We now move forward to Sunday, 1:00 slate, and right off the top, we will be heading to Lambeau Field, where the Green Bay Packers welcome Jake Luton and the Jacksonville Jaguars. What do we got on this game?
I didn't know this was going to be the first one we did, and we're going to, much like you said last week, ends on a whimper. That's where we're going because Green Bay's got the highest projected total at 33 this week, so it's all downhill from here, kids. And Jacksonville has one of the lowest at 19, so second fewest. Green Bay is a 14-point favorite at home, total of 51. Supposed to be all Green Bay all the time. No reason it won't be. Aaron Jones returned last week, and for all the talk about him, being on a limited snap count, he was clearly the lead back. So they're pretty safe with banged up guys. So if he played fully last week and we didn't heard any reports that he aggravated anything, it should be a full-blown Aaron Jones explosion again this week, and fire up everybody on Green Bay. I think Lazard is back this week. Valdez-Scantling caught 2 touchdowns last week, I think, but it was only on 2 targets, so he got a little lucky there. But you're gonna play the guys here for Green Bay. I wouldn't be shocked to maybe, if they really blow them out of the water, see some of the lesser-owned guys get some snaps later in the game as they are comfortably sitting on a 3-touchdown lead towards the end there. Jacksonville, Luton looked okay. I think they probably, if I was them, wouldn't you ride him out for the rest of the year, see what you have there? Chris Conley got involved a little bit more last week. DJ Chark finally had a huge game. I think it was the best game of the year, if I'm not mistaken. And Robinson's always in play, but this should be lots of Green Bay.
Yeah, correction on the MVS. He only had 2 catches, but he did have 4 targets, including an egregious drop on a crossing route to pick up a first down where Aaron Rodgers shot him daggers after the drop, but still went back to him. His 2 catches did both go for touchdowns, and Aaron Jones deserves better. It was Thursday Night Football a week ago. He got all the low-calorie touches. Aaron Rodgers had 2 one-yard passing TDs. So it's like, come on, man. Like, stop being Aaron Rodgers for one day and give Aaron Jones just desserts. But both those running backs, I believe, are off the COVID list. At least Jamal Williams is. I guess A.J. Dillon isn't, because A.J. Dillon was the one that actually tested positive. Jamal Williams was the close contact. So he'll be back for this game. So if you went and picked up Tyler Ervin or Dexter Williams in running back misery a week ago, feel free to drop both of those guys, because
and then Dexter got hurt too.
Yeah, he got hurt, so he's done. And Tyler Ervin won't be anything but a distant third wheel with those 2 guys back. So hopefully it's an Aaron Jones game. Yes, everything I heard is he came out of the Thursday night game unscathed, so he's had a long week to recover for what should be a dream matchup against these Jacksonville Jaguars. But Green Bay isn't stout against the run either. Interestingly enough, both these teams give up exactly 4.5 yards per carry and have allowed 11 rushing touchdowns on the year. So they're almost like mirror images of each other on a per touch basis for as far as rushing is concerned. So you're going to fire up James Robinson again. Hopefully it doesn't get so far out of bounds that it becomes a Chris Thompson catch-up mode scenario, but you can't bench James Robinson at this point in time. The dude is just a volume monster. And you're right, DJ Chark was bitching and moaning about not getting the ball. Well, Jake Luton sure as shit was looking his way in that unfortunate loss to the Texans last week. So you go back to the well with DJ Chark, who 12 targets. Yeah, you'll take that 7 for 146 and a touchdown. You just got to pepper that guy. Laviska Shenault left the game injured, but I heard it wasn't bad. But still, we're going to probably have to temper expectations on good old Visca for year 1, because there still just not seems to be like integrated into this offense. He's this little like gadgety piece, but you nailed the Green Bay side. Aaron Rodgers is going to just light Jaguars the fuck up. And if there's no way that Devontae Adams isn't a top 5 wide receiver, again, I'm not going to call him the wide receiver 1, but he will put up a top 5 stat line, because he's going to get double-digit targets. He'll end up with 8+ catches. He will end up with 100+ yards, and he will definitely 100% score at least 1 touchdown. So if you like 6 for 100 and a touchdown floor, then Devontae Adams is your guy.
It's not a bad floor.
No, it's a great floor. It's a floor you're walking at Ash, like, I could sleep on that floor. Looks like a comfortable floor.
Extra thick padding.
Yes, just luxurious. Littered with the tears of all the other secondary receivers for Green Bay for the last several years. Sleeping on Devontae Adams' floor. All right. Not a lot to be said there. But yes, the Luton thing, you're starting them. Listen, they almost beat the Texans. I don't think Jacksonville wants to win. So maybe they go back to Gardner once that thumb heals up, because they were actually a pretty competent offense. And no insult to Gardner Minshew, but if you're trying to lose, Gardner Minshew seemed a lot more prone to back-breaking losses than Luton did. He almost pulled out a win. So who knows? But Luton is definitely starting one more week. So we'll see where that goes. Moving on to more interesting game. Probably not. You'll definitely say definitely not. When the Houston Texans, who we just talked about, beating the listless Jaguars a week ago, head to First Energy Stadium to do battle with Nick Chubb. Yes, he's back. And the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, weird game here. So Cleveland is a 3-point favorite at home, getting the 3 just for being at home. Total's 53.5. So you're looking at Cleveland with 28 and Houston with 25. I don't see how either one of them get there. This game screams under to me. I just don't see how they get there personally. I'm fading this one, especially with the total for DFS purposes. A lot of people are going to see that total and try to get a piece of this game. I am not interested. I don't see how either one gets this. David Johnson got a little bit of the old scramble brain last week. I haven't seen much as of this recording for an update on him. So, are they better with Duke Johnson? The answer is absolutely not. Offensively, Fuller had a decent game. Could we see that again? Sure. Will we see it again? Not likely, because it's he kind of does. And then on the Cleveland side, with the exception of Chubb coming back, which is super exciting, Hunt had a couple big weeks when Chubb first disappeared, and even when Chubb was there to start the year, but he's kind of he's still been fantasy relevant, but kind of the falling off the cliff from what people saw earlier and were hoping for. Wide receivers, kind of a disaster there in Cleveland. So I don't particularly like anybody in this game, although, big Chubb for Chubb coming back.
Yeah, just so we're clear, Kareem Hunt, I don't want to throw the word stunk around lightly, but he disappointed in what was supposed to be this like banner. Kareem Hunt could be the RB1 overall while Nick Chubb is out. And he was anything but during that time. And so welcome back, Nick Chubb, is one. I'm a huge Nick Chubb fan. I do like Kareem Hunt, but I thought the people going crazy about Kareem Hunt. I mean, I just wanted back to at least the last 2 weeks. He was very average running the ball. He had a receiving touchdown 2 weeks ago. Didn't have a touchdown, 3 weeks ago. Didn't have a touchdown last week. They came off their bye. He's been like a middling RB2 while he's had this backfield all to himself. Like, how about we do this? Give Nick Chubb the backfield all to himself again and see what he could do with it. Because I guarantee Nick Chubb would have done way better than what Kareem Hunt did during that stretch of time. So just in time, just bring in the reinforcements, get the RB1 back into Cleveland's backfield, and just in time to go against the 31st ranked team in rushing yards allowed to the clip of 5.1 per carry with 11 rushing touchdowns allowed on the season. You couldn't. This is like an open arms game for Nick Chubb. Like this, he's just going to just have gaping holes to gallop through all afternoon long. 100 and a touchdown for Nick Chubb right off of the short-term IR. Absolute minimum. Kareem Hunt, get back to your 1B cellar where you belong. When you said where do the points come from, Cleveland's pass defense isn't anything special. They stopped the run. Very average. Bottom third versus the pass. This is a fire-up Deshaun Watson. He will be a top 5 quarterback again this week. And Fuller and Cooks are both viable wide receiver twos. They're getting volume now that they weren't before. I mean, Cooks is getting like 9 targets a game since they fired Bill O'Brien. So they're going to find points in this game. I agree with the total. I could see this being a sneaky shootout game because Cleveland wants to run, you can run on Houston. Houston wants to pass, you can pass on Cleveland. Both teams are actually going to do exactly what their offenses are built to do, and it's succeed on script. So I like the offensive options here. Austin Hooper should be back without Odell. He should slot right back into a potential tight end 1 role. Yeah, I guess that's about it. Hey, or did the David Johnson thing with the scrambled brains and not trusting Duke? You trust Duke Johnson. You say it too.
They don't trust Duke
Johnson. No one trusts Duke Johnson. No one in the NFL trusts Duke Johnson, but they obviously never watched a minute of college tape of Duke Johnson as he just tore through college football while he was at Miami as a bell cow back. I'm excited. Please, and even in a tough matchup, I'm excited, and I would start Duke Johnson in an absolute heartbeat when David Johnson is ruled out from this concussion as a high-end RB2.
I missed the obvious here. Duke Johnson, revenge game.
Huh? Yeah, he doesn't have many of them, but yeah, he sure hates Cleveland because they were the one that started this slander campaign against Duke Johnson for his entire NFL career about how he can't be anything more than a change of pace third down back. So yes, let's just in time. Take a week off, David. Get your brain right. Let Duke Johnson just teach Cleveland a lesson. And it could be to the tune of like 5 or 6, 7 catches as well. So probably a DFS free square if David Johnson's D'd out, and it would put up a better stat line probably than David Johnson has in any singular game this year.
You sure hate David Johnson.
He's washed. Everyone knows it. It's like the dirty little secret of fantasy football. He's just such a nice stand-up guy. There's nothing negative you can say about him, but yeah, he's never really been a true running back. He needs like 100 targets in a season to be viable, and now the injuries are mounting up. Sorry, just call it a career. Duke Johnson greater than David Johnson. I said that before the season started. The DJ that you want in Houston
for like 3 years.
I've just been over here beating the silent drum in the corner that no one listens to. It's like a dog whistle. No one can hear it, but me and you. So we'll see what comes of it on Sunday at 1:00. Moving on to a
story.
Disgusting NFC least game that I will be glued to the television for when my fresh off the bye and getting healthy at the right time, Philadelphia Eagles head to MetLife Stadium to avoid all injuries and defeat the listless New York Giants, who beat up on the Washington football team. How dare you, New York Giants? What do we got for this game?
Nothing. After that intro, I got nothing to add. Philly's 3.5-point road dog against the Giants, and Philly. Did I say dog? I meant favorite. Damn it!
You did. Well, Philadelphia underdogs. It's kind of it's our thing, but it's not enough anymore.
Here we go. Giants are projected at 20.5, so not even 3 touchdowns for them. Philly at 24, so roughly 3 touchdowns and a field goal. Where it comes from, who knows? It's Travis Fulgham at some point, I'm sure. Philly should beat the hell out of the Giants. But like you said, disgusting game here. Wouldn't be a shocker to see this, just turn into some kind of interdivisional disaster, 13-10. But I think Philly does win this one. I can't see a route for the Giants to win it. Rager probably could be a nice little sneaky play here. But other than that, there's no one that jumps off the page. Fulgham is their wide receiver 1. He should get the volume there for the Giants. Sterling Shepard's probably in play since there's this big infighting with Golden Tate, not even getting dressed anymore for football games. So not a ton of fantasy goodness to go around here, but a few guys might pop and should be under the radar for DFS if you like somebody in this game.
Listen, nothing I'd want to see more than a naked Golden Tate running around MetLife Stadium, refusing to get dressed for the game. And that especially started with his wife chirping about him not getting the snaps and the targets, and then he doubled down. He liked it or commented on it. And Joe Judge, no nonsense, New England Patriots attitude. Boom, you're inactive for saying the exact right thing and the truth. You should get more targets, but we're not going to give them to you. So,
real quick, one thing to add here. I would like to see the Giants win, so they're 3-7, and the Eagles are 3-5-1. I want this whole division to be as bad and as equally bad as possible. I want someone to get in the playoffs with 4 wins.
You want chaos. I understand, and I listen. Whatever. It's my lot in life, the NFC East. So it's always ugly. But listen, these Giants suck. Okay, they're terrible versus the pass. They're 29th in passing yards allowed, 15-8 touchdown interception ratio. They're pretty stout against the run, so I would temper expectations on Miles Sanders' rushing totals, but they should get him back involved as a pass catching back in this one. Jalen Reagor, Travis Fulgham, and Dallas Goedert is by far the best that Carson Wentz has had to throw to this season, and I think they'll get off against these Giants. There's just nothing scary in the Giants secondary that's going to stop this passing attack. It should be a pretty uneventful game for Carson Wentz, but who knows what that even means anymore. Just please don't have more than 1 turnover. Please don't have any fumbles because you're holding the ball too long. This is just my personal plea to you at this point. Has no fantasy relevance at all, but just come on, 1 or less turnovers in the game, and we win this game by 10+ points. I mean, who on the Giants scares you? A little Evan Ingram because they're finally starting to target him downfield. Like Slayton, who got marginalized by Darius Slay. What was it? Slayed a ton or whatever that horrible joke is. A few weeks ago. Run it back. Darius Slayton's going to get canceled out, so you're going to get peppered with underneath shit from Golden Tate and Sterling Shepard all game. Just don't let Daniel Jones break an 80-yard run where he trips over his own feet in the open field. And this offense can do literally nothing to the Eagles defense. So comfortable Eagles win. Definitely starting Miles Sanders if he's active. I think Carson Wentz is going to put up a low-end QB1 total. I like Jalen Reagor in this game. They were making a concerted effort to get him involved, even though Travis Fulgham was still the target leader. And Travis Fulgham is a must-start player at this point in time. He's going to command the lion's share of the targets in this passing game. Great. So probably a good wide receiver 2 to put out there. And Dallas Goedert, listen, where we're at in tight end anymore. Dallas Goedert barely saw any action in his first game back, but he is a must-start tight end. There's just no 2 ways around it. Just his upside alone going against this Giants pass defense. Dallas Goedert, I will be shocked if he doesn't put up a top 10 performance.
I mean, especially being a Philly guy, Ertz and Goddard. I mean, they've both been banged up, but been healthy most of the year. Have they? I mean, they've both been pretty disappointing, even when they were on the field. Are they just not getting the targets? And especially with the injuries they've had at wide receiver, you'd have thought that both of them would have been popping off this year, and they both kind of let fantasy owners down so far.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, listen, Ertz is a catch and fall guy. I've never been the biggest Ertz fan. I've said on this podcast countless times, he was the default wide receiver one in Philadelphia for the past four seasons, where he saw enough volume to end up with like the 900-yard, 5 to 6 touchdown season on 80 catches or whatever it is, that few other tight ends in the NFL see. He just was, but he offered you nothing after the catch. No explosion. He was just a volume-based tight end. Dallas Goedert is better in every shape, way imaginable. I mean, even to blocking, and he will supplant Ertz as soon as next year. And you were talking about them being disappointing. Week 1, Dallas Goedert put up 8 for 101 and a touchdown against the Washington Redskins. He backed it up in week 2 with a 4 for 30 game against the Rams, where the Eagles just were out of sorts. But he had 8 targets again. So his first 2 weeks, Goddard had 9 and 8 targets when both him and Ertz were on the field. It was already clear Goddard was the one when they were both on the field. Now Ertz is out of the way for the foreseeable future, injured. Goddard is just working his way back into form. Only had 1 target in the win against the Cowboys. I'm going to expect more, and he's going to be a 6+ target guy probably weekly going forward. And that's all you can ask for at the tight end position.
I need it in a couple spots, so I hope you're right.
Yes, and so does my real life. So, go Birds! Moving on. This game, another division game. It's chock full. Heavy slate of division game so far, but the absolutely punch-drunk Tampa Bay Buccaneers head to Bank of America Stadium to do battle with the once again CMC-less Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I know just from Twitter. I didn't see any of the game, but I just saw people trashing how dog shit Tampa looked in that game. So I have not seen any of it, so I have no feedback, but at least box score scouting did not look to be pretty. Panthers are surprisingly, I mean, they're 3-6. They're not good. Let's not get carried away here.
That's
only scored
surprising.
210.
I think I had them at a two-win team all year. So they've already surprised me, John.
But they've been pretty game. Like, they haven't gotten crushed in a lot of games either. They've hung in there. I think defensively, which going into the year, people thought they were going to be really bad on defense. Actually, their defense hasn't been horrific. They've been okay. Their offense has actually been kind of stymied. But when you lose arguably the best fantasy football player in the world in Christian McCaffrey, that will happen. I wonder what their record would be if they never lost McCaffrey. But I digress. Getting back to the game at hand, Tampa is anywhere between a 4 and it opened at 6. It's down to 5 in a few spots, but 4.5, 5 most places with a total of 50. So they are projecting some points here, with the Buccaneers projected for 27, almost 28 points, and the Panthers down at 22 points. So we should see like 7 touchdowns in this game. So there is some fantasy goodness to be had. I'm just going to go right to it. Leonard Fournette. I mean, we didn't see much from either one of them. Like I said, just looking at the box score last week, Fournette, I think, is getting more snaps now pretty regularly over Rojo. And Carolina can be run on. Who do you like this week between the two of them?
Well, listen, harken back to week 2 of the Fantasy 40 when I said Leonard Fournette 2-touchdown game. He did it against these aforementioned Carolina Panthers. 12 for 103 and 2 touchdowns. So let's get back on that Leonard Fournette train. He's the better running back. He was the one when they were in catch-up mode. They didn't run the ball at all. I think the Buccaneers had 5 carries the entire game.
It was 4.
Well, the kneel down at the end from Blaine Gabbert counted as 1. It was a new NFL record for fewest carries in a game. And they probably should have ran it less, because that's how much they were just getting boat raced right out of the gate. John, if you like train wrecks, you got to go watch this, because nothing the Buccaneers did work. I mean, Brady was just like getting hit every single play. He was like rolling his eyes and throwing his hands up, and just it was an utter collapse of
I'm going to have to watch it.
Getting Antonio Brown in there, it was just catastrophic. It's just bad beginning to end. And little fantasy goodness we had. Like somehow even all the points the Saints scored. No real like high-end superstar in the game. It was like Brees threw it to like 12 guys. It was like the antithesis of fantasy goodness. It was literally a nightmare of football proportions. So go watch it. You were talking about the Panthers. All 3 games the Panthers won this season were without Christian McCaffrey. They have not won in a single game that Christian McCaffrey has started this year. So I'm just saying, running backs don't matter. Christian McCaffrey matters, but you got to stir that pot when you can. So Mike Davis has 3 wins under his belt as a starting running back in the Carolina Panthers. It's not going to be 4 because Carolina is going to lose to Tampa again. The worst loss to Carolina had this season was to Tampa in week 2 by 14 points. So you're right. They don't get blown out by anyone. They just lost a tight one to the Chiefs by 2 points where they were able to put up 31 points on them. So not going to say that they're able to put up points against Tampa because Tampa has a pretty stout run defense and all things being considered as a good pass defense. And Carolina hates DJ Moore is the conclusion that I've come to. Just absolutely hates him. Anyone but DJ Moore. That's their game plan rolling out. Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel, Mike Davis, bring CMC back. Any guy off the street, practice squad guy. Let's throw it to a tackle eligible tight end. DJ Moore. That's the hierarchy of things. And it frustrates me because DJ Moore deserves so much better. But, I'm going right to the well with Leonard Fournette in this game. I think Tampa wants to run it like crazy, especially, like I said, after the absolute pounding that Tom Brady took against the Saints. Like, they're just going to want to just get out of town with a win. I think it's going to be run heavy. You could probably even start Ronald Jones in this game, to be totally honest with you, because they went from probably 5 carries to, I would say, conservatively, they will run the ball 30 times against the Carolina Panthers. I don't know that Brady throws it 25 times at the end of the day. So limit expectations on the pass catchers. He spread it around pretty evenly to everyone in Antonio Brown's first game, but AB looked good for first game back in whatever, a year and a half. Looked fresh, looked explosive, caught the ball cleanly. You know Brady absolutely loves Antonio Brown. So he's probably the one I'm ranking the highest going forward. Chris Godwin had a splint on his hand. He was catching balls like with his front 2 fingers like back. You see this? It was like the weirdest thing they were showing pregame because it was his index finger that he fractured. So he had the first 2 fingers taped, and he was catching without those fingers. Well, those are the fingers you catch footballs with. The top fingers. So it was amazing that he even played and was catching the ball. But until I don't see a splint on Chris Godwin's hand, I'm not excited about starting him. And Mike Evans he's still the red zone guy, but he's going to lose a ton of value because he's not seeing the volume that he used to have. So limit pass catching expectation from the Bucs. Start both running backs. Start all running backs because you can start Mike Davis too. This is a start your running backs game.
Just to illustrate your DJ Moore point, last week Curtis Samuel and Robbie Anderson combined 18 receptions for 168 yards. DJ Moore 2 for 18.
Yeah, and he had 2 catches the week prior. So he's had 2 catches each of the last 2 weeks.
Not good.
Yeah, that's what you do with the guy that you've declared as your alpha receiver in your offense. You don't scheme targets to him. Scheme targets literally for every other receiver. Let's get 9 catches for Curtis Samuel. Okay, let's make him a priority like they did the last 2 weeks and absolutely relegate DJ Moore. Just makes total sense. All right, not angry at all. Not better. No, just disappointed. The last of the 1 o'clock games. Talk about
and certainly least.
Yeah, ending on a thud. The Washington football team, now led by Alex Smith after Kyle Allen fractures his ankle. I mean, oh, goodness, it's a circle of life in Washington. They head to Ford Field to do battle with the Kenny Galladay-less Detroit Lions.
I just want to point out, exactly like we said at the opening, started with these Green Bay-Jacksonville game and have steadily went downhill to close on this hunk of garbage.
Like week 10, the Slalom. That's what we're going to call this episode. It's all downhill from here.
Yeah, there's not most places don't have a lineup. I think isn't there some problem with Stafford too? And Washington isn't 100% sure Smith's going to start. So the best line I have for you is Detroit minus 3.5 at home with a total of 45. The sites that give the team implied totals don't even have it posted. So there's a lot of question marks in this game. Detroit, like, as you mentioned, Galladay is going to be out. Last week, I was expecting some DeAndre Swift action, but that kind of fell flat. Detroit's just hard to predict what they're going to do. You obviously can play Marvin Jones here because he's going to be their top option. Want to be a little sneaky. I think Cephas could have a decent day for Washington. Good luck. You had mentioned, I think, before we were recording about them just dinking and dunking, and Alex Smith kind of just check downs. Could be a huge game for Antonio Gibson, but other than that, this with all the question marks in this contest, I'm fading it if I can, but I do like Gibson a lot.
Yeah, I was looking up the Matt Stafford thing. I think he got evaluated for concussion, if I recall correctly, late in the game.
He's had a crazy year. Like he's been, in the offseason, remember they said he had Rona, and then his wife put that list out, that email out, and was like, fuck you. That never even happened. Now nobody wants to nobody wants to play with our kids. And then this week they put him on the list for close contact, but he never had it. So he's had a wonky year, especially coming off the broken back to close last year. So it has
not been the season that I had anticipated for Matt Stafford. I was hoping he was going to build upon what he did the year prior when he was lighting the NFL up before the aforementioned broken back. But whether it's him, whether it's the Rona, whether it's Galladay not playing, whether it's Matt Patricia being the absolute second worst coach in the entire NFL, only to Adam Gase. Adam Gase is clearly the worst coach in the NFL, so that title, he'll never be unseated. So Matt Patricia cannot be the worst unless and until the Jets do the right thing and fire Adam Gase. But just Detroit is just a dumpster fire. I mean, it is. And this team is 29th in rushing yards allowed, 4.8 yards carry, tied for NFL worst, 13 rushing TDs. So I just wrote, please give Antonio Gibson the ball as much as possible. And let's see a little more J.D. McKissick in the passing game as well, because that's clearly not going away. So 6+ catches for J.D. McKissick. I think Washington wins this game whether Matt Stafford plays or not.
I don't disagree. Yeah, I'll take the points.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting. I also read something that Matt Stafford got benched. That was just like a Twitter post. So who knows? Was it concussion protocol, or did he actually get benched? Who knows? But Detroit is not a team you ever want to bet on. It's not a team I don't want to start anyone from, because they just refuse to give DeAndre Swift the lion's share of the carries. There's still too much Kerryon Johnson and Adrian Peterson for my liking. Without Kenny Galladay, maybe you start Marvin Jones in a pinch, but who really wants to do that? And then TJ Hawkinson, in this bereft world of tight ends, you're certainly going to want to roll out. Yeah, you're going to want to roll out TJ Hawkinson, who's done it like sneakily, like when it's all said and done. Like, no one talks about him. He's not having these huge games. He's just consistent. He's getting enough targets, so he's getting the catches in the yards, and he's mixing in enough touchdowns to be that high. But he hasn't had any one of these like 2-touchdown games or 100-yard games or anything like that. He's just clearly the second pass catcher in this offense. So, yeah, go to the well with him and little else in this Detroit passing game. Yeah, Hawkinson 5 for 39 and a touchdown. So nothing groundbreaking, but he had 8 targets. So you'll take that all day long. You give me just the 39 and a touchdown. I'll trade you the 5 catches if you can just give me that 9.9 points for the tight end position. I'll be happy. But, yeah, not a lot. It'll be ugly. And I said that on the Detroit side too, Washington is only allowing 185 yards per game passing as a defense. And I said Stafford will be without Galladay. So, and potentially off a concussion. And people don't want to play with his kids. And Matt Patricia's his head coach. I mean, what more can go against this guy right now? I mean, playing at home should benefit him, but I want nothing to do with anything Detroit Lions based. The only thing in this game I'm really excited about is Antonio Gibson, because he should get 15 to 20 touches again, as they probably will not have to be in catch-up mode against the Lions.
Yeah, correct. Well, that wraps up the early games, right?
Yep.
With a whimper. All right, so that's our early games. Be on the lookout for the next episode, which should be released shortly after this one, where we'll take a look at the afternoon games, of which there are plenty, and the Sunday night game and Monday night. So for myself, John DeBari, my co-host Matt Walker, missing in action, Mr. Andrew Burke, we are the Fantasy 40, and we are out of here. Ow!
And I just realized that my microphone was not plugged in until this point in the broadcast. So we'll see how that pans out. You could hear me fine?
Sounded all right to me.
All right. Not any different now?
Now that you've said it, yes, it sounds different, but it didn't sound bad. It was just going through your computer mic.
Yes. All right. Well, we'll see how that pans out because we are not redoing Thursday Night Football. Well, we will cut and move.
What I do know is it takes a day for me to potentially be able to get the audio file to edit it.
I will just smile and nod because I'm a dummy.
Listen, I don't know any better. I know how to pull a link, put it through a converter site, and then put it into the free Audacity app. That's
leaps and bounds ahead of me.
Fair enough. All right, let's roll because I have a hard stop before 2 because I have a 2 o'clock work call. So we have an hour and a half.
Rock and roll.
All right, so
where am I here? Close this. Okay. Ready? It's week 10, right?
10! Give it a 10!